Hello. This is the second episode of Predu on Air, otherwise explained like this by my friend Kyle.
Hey there, everyone. This is Caleb, and I'm going to have the Predu redo, where we redo the last Predu, because we need more things to do since the last Predu wasn't great.
I am Caleb Suttles, the host of the show. Predu is a collection of short, sharable stories. Each show is dedicated to a previsionary, that is, someone who is revisiting their past and sharing their revisions, the things they would change, the things they know now that they wish they would have known then, whenever then is. These vignettes are meant to share, so if this story connects with you, share it with your friends, and consider sharing your own here on air. Today's revision: Once, Always. There was a film released in 2012, Searching for Sugar Man.
If ever there is an air of intrigue and mystery around a pop artist, it is around the artist known as Rodriguez.
The film was about a man who attempted musical success in the 1960s and failed. He released a record and no one bought it. Or he thought no one bought it. Unbeknownst to him, his record made it to South Africa, where he became more widely distributed in the preceding decades than Elvis. Meanwhile, he worked as a construction worker with no knowledge of his commercial success a world away. Dean's story is kind of like that. Dean Cook grew up in Houston, Texas. In 1965, when he was 15, he went to see the Beatles.
When I touch you, I feel happy.
And in 1965, August 1965, I went to see, paid $5, and I went to see the Beatles. And it basically, truthfully, it changed my life. They were just fantastic. They were so good. And, of course, the girls were screaming and throwing jelly beans at them and all that kind of stuff. And it was just terrific. So I wanted to do that. I said, gosh, I'd like to make a lot of money and have girls scream at me, too. I was 15 years old.
Dean's friends were getting a band together. He told his friends that he could play bass, even though he had never actually played. He learned from his friends along the way. He and all of his friends were surfers, so they named their band the Ripple Riders. They played together through middle school, and in high school he joined a different band, the Surf Knights. And this group actually achieved some notoriety.
There was another group of guys when I got to high school, and they had a band, and they were called the Surf Knights. And in that band, I was the only one that was a surfer. And so I played bass with them, and by this time I was starting to, really be able to play. And we played all over the place. We played all over Texas, and there was my dad was our manager. His name was George Cook, and he was our manager, and he wound up getting us lined up with a couple of promoters, and we wound up as an opening act for The Who on their first American tour.
They opened for a lot of successful 60s bands, including Paul Revere and the Raiders.
A lot of people remember them from, they had a television show and all this sort of thing back in the 60s. And so we were all just high school kids, Caleb, we just got lucky and we're in the right place at the right time.
But the band members outgrew the Surf Knights. They parted ways, and Dean went to college.
Pretty much stayed together all throughout high school, and then as we all got to the end, we were all about the same age, and we all graduated from high school about the same time. And as we got to that point in our lives, we all went our separate ways, you know.
Right.
There, I met a whole lot of musicians. Back then, Texas or Austin was not what it is now, but it was just beginnings of that music scene. And I met people like Willie Nelson, and Jerry Jeff Walker, Guy Clark, and different people like that, songwriters, Towns Van Zandt, various people, and who were really great musicians and songwriters. And we had a great time. Great time.
He graduated with a degree in business. He redirected his attention from his music to his personal life and building a family.
Then I kind of retired when I got married, and my wife and I have together, we have 5 children, and so I figured that it'd be best if I was at home and had a real job, so to speak. Although playing is a cruel mistress, I will tell you, being in a band.
But all of that changed recently. After retiring, he returned to his passion.
I decided I was going to go back to what I enjoyed doing, which was music. And so I started playing again. I write a lot of my own music. I'm more of a songwriter than anything else.
And just as Dean was rediscovering his love, he received a call from a friend he had not spoken to since the 60s. It was one of the surf nights.
Well, back in about 5 years ago, I mentioned Tom George. He called me, and I hadn't talked to him in probably 40 years. He called me and told me that he'd made a discovery that our music, the Surf Nights music from the 60s, which we'd recorded some. In fact, well, that's not the story, I'm going to tell you that, but the Surf Nights music was being played and sold in Europe.
This was huge for Dean and his ex-bandmates.
So we went back to the studio and remastered and all of our recorded material, and we've released it on a CD called Surf Nights and Then and Now, and it's pretty good. It's not bad. It reminds you a little bit of the Beatles and a little bit of the Byrds, and you can hear a lot of the influence, you know, of the people that we were in and around. But I wrote all the songs on the album.
What do you think of you know, the idea of your music selling, you know, long after your group had kind of ended and some of you had moved on from music?
Well, it was really, really surprising to me. You know, I didn't. I mean, I knew our music was pretty good. You know, I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was pretty good.
When you were kind of in that group in high school, did you kind of envision yourself doing music like professionally as something that would be?
I did. When I was in the Surf Nights, I thought for sure that we were going to wind up and be, you know, as popular as the Beatles. You know,
with the music still kind of living on and selling in Europe and elsewhere, did it kind of make you think at all that maybe if you guys would have kept going, that you could have?
Yeah, it did. That thought occurred to me. I never really thought of myself as being a great songwriter, but you know, my songs still live on, which is pretty gratifying as a songwriter.
I asked Dean if he saw himself continuing to make music indefinitely.
I think so. Like I say, I retired from business probably 5 years ago, and you know, I wanted to do something in my retirement, and I kind of have reverted back to my original state, which is music, you know. And so, yeah, I've been playing a lot. And somebody asked me not long ago, how long do you think you can play? And I said, well, I don't know, you know. Depends on how long I feel like I can, you know. I mean, I feel pretty good now. I feel like I can play and go different places and play my songs and perform and that sort of thing. And so I'm going to do it as long as I can. You know, heck, Willie Nelson, for example, is 80 years old, and he's still playing.
You know, figuring out when to give up and when to keep going is never easy. But one thing is certain. You cannot change who you are and what your passion is. You can outgrow your pursuit of an ambition, but you can never outgrow the source of it. You can visit DeanCookMusic.com for more about Dean.
Cry for me, I cried for you. You cry for me, I cried for you.
You know what to do.
So, everyone email me about the pre-do redo. Be the first one to like this. And thanks.
If you or anyone you know is interested in sharing your story here on air, email me at predoonair@gmail.com. Please share this episode with your friends and come back next week for the next revision.